From the Sky News Centre, this is Paul Murray Live.
G'day, good evening on the eve of our National Day. We've got plenty to talk about tonight on Paul Murray Live. We're moving the man cave to Brisbane this evening, but it's a show as normal. No sooks, no lefties, by the way. However, we're, of course, like everyone else, going to talk about Albo at the press club today. How many lies and sleight of hand and half-truths can you shove into 1 hour speech? Well, there were plenty, and we'll get to that in a second, plus the media with some of their soft treatment, including people writing articles about how he can get away with breaking the promise. The great Nigel Farage will join us live from London. And being Australia Day tomorrow, we decided to test how the people of Cabramatta in southwestern Sydney feel about our National Day. We'll have a chat to those people a little more. But the big news out of Queensland that is going to be national news by this time tomorrow, and definitely a little more detail tomorrow morning, is in the next hour or so, Cyclone Kirrily is expected to cross the coast. Now, not just the destructive winds, but the great fear with this is that there's going to be an awful lot of rain. Now, remember, there has been very serious rain that had already happened in and around the summer period. But to give you an idea, it's expected to land somewhere 40 kilometres northeast of Townsville and 325 kilometres northwest of Mackay. So as you can see here, that is the eye of things. And while winds are one thing, rain is another, and the expectation is that the rain may well be felt all the way down here in Brisbane and could end up washing out the cricket in the next couple of days. Let's go to local areas to see how they are prepared for what is about to happen in the next hour and then days ahead. Lynn McLaughlin is the Mayor of Burdekin, which is in and around the area of Ayr in Queensland, and she joins us now. Mayor, about an hour to go, maybe even a little sooner than that. Tell me about the preparations.
So the preparations have been excellent, outstanding. Our community have really cleared all their yards. The grocery shops reported that everyone was buying the right type of produce to use over the cyclone. Everyone went into lockdown later this afternoon, and my only wish is that our community comes through here with no injuries and we expect some damage, but no loss of life or no major injuries.
Yeah, look, obviously Queensland's very good at how to deal with these things, and obviously generations have seen things come and go before, but technology means that you're able to be safe, be inside, but also keep in touch with everyone around the area. Give me an idea about what the council itself has been doing. I always love those pictures of people that are going and getting sandbags, but what has the council been doing to make sure it's okay? And if there's a mess, what does the council do tomorrow?
All right. So the council has ensured that both reservoirs in Home Hill and Ayr are full of water, so our water supply is secure. They've cleared all the drainage paths for the rain and ensured that there are clear paths to the coast. We've also checked all generators, and generators are stationed at all our vital infrastructure, sewage pumps, water. We've also kept the transfer stations open right up until yesterday. And like I said, the community really has used them extensively. The sandbags, we've worked with SES. We've given out close to 10,000 sandbags, and the community have helped, and it's been outstanding, amazing. And they've been doing that in the three towns, Ayr, Home Hill and Garoo. And there's just a calm around the community that people appear to understand what's coming. We haven't had a cyclone through here for a long time. We had the prospect of Debbie coming through, but right at the last 6 hours it veered to the Whitsundays. And I'm just feeling confident that everybody understands. We've done lots of communication through social media on our website. The disaster dashboards are an outstanding success. We also have links to main roads, to Ergon, to any water problems, to Telstra. So they're a great reference. But I don't know what people are doing unless they're using their phones, because where I'm living, we lost power at 5, so that's why I've got all these lights around me. And Ayr lost them early this afternoon too. So I know the town of Home Hill still had lights, power.
Yeah, well, good on you. Yeah, good on you, Mayor. All the best to everyone in and around your shire. We'll check back in, of course, in the next couple of days, but all the best for the next couple of hours. Good to hear that the preparation, including a sort of unofficial council clean-up has helped there. Again, we'll get to the politics in a second, but this is what's worrying Australians right now in the state that I'm in, which, of course, is Queensland. None other than my mate Jenny Hill, of course, is the Mayor of Townsville. They, of course, have had to deal with all sorts of things over the past few weeks. Well, here we go again. Jenny, lovely to see you, darling. What is the preparation? How are you guys ready for what might be happening in the next hour?
Well, we've got the cyclone crossing the coast as we are on the air now, Paul. Its eyes probably about 40 k's northeast of us, and I can hear the wind gusts and hear the roof shake here at the local disaster coordination centre. So it's a bit scary for many of the community out there. But I'm confident that we did a lot of work leading into this. People were getting sandbags at the very last minute. At this stage, I'm not too worried about the expected rainfall, but there is already significant damage. We're seeing probably 20,000 homes, I'd say, without power.
Now, how do you make sure that over, say, at Magnetic Island on the other side of things, that obviously there's no capacity for them to get out or move to higher ground? What happens with them in a situation like this?
Well, we tell them to shelter in place. Now, the Bureau was pretty good with us. We had some really good data coming in right up to our very last meeting today at 8 o'clock. So we were able to give the community pretty good information about what was likely to happen. Now, we're not going to see any storm surges, which is good. I'm hopeful that by late tomorrow, we might be able to get a barge over to the island. Many of the homes on Maggie Island are without power, and I want to try and get restoration on as quickly as possible. Our contact in Energy Queensland that sits on our LDMG, we ensured we already had what we call a request for service to arrange for a barge to get us over there as quickly as possible.
All right, good stuff. Thank you very much, Jenny. Lovely to see you. Look forward to coming to Townsville sooner rather than later. All the best, mate. Jenny Hill, the Mayor of Townsville, and before that, of course, what's happening in the Burdekin Shire. So that's the immediate situation. As you've heard, there is the crossing right now. It is happening as we speak. We'll have full information for you as it comes to hand here. Of course, even further rolling coverage happening over on the Weather Channel right now. But to what you have come to expect of the show, a look at the day's news. Now, the Prime Minister was playing a home game today because he was in Canberra in front of the nation's press gallery, which, of course, is generally a friendly affair. But at the National Press Club, it's not always plain sailing for Anthony Albanese. Full credit to an emailer to my dear friend Ray Hadley today, who reminded him, and thus me, that way back when he was a minister in the Gillard government, his appearances at the National Press Club were not exactly his own words. Remember when he ripped off that American President movie, almost word for word?
Tony Abbott is not the least bit interested in fixing anything.
Bob Rumson is not the least bit interested in solving it.
He's only interested in two things.
He is interested in two things.
Making Australians afraid of it.
Making you afraid of it.
And telling them who's to blame for it.
And telling you who's to blame for it.
Can you believe that really happened? That actually happened. An Australian politician who became Prime Minister, we elected him, well, not us, but you get my point, just ripped off a speech as directly as that, and yet his career was not ended. He's also, of course, been able to go on and tell us time and time again that he's changing politics. You see, he's a man of his word.
That my word is my bond. Always been a man of my word.
Even if, of course, he had the fingers crossed behind his back, because as you know, and as everyone's told you tonight, the reality was, how many times did he say we're not going to do anything to the stage 3 tax cuts? And while the lefties are obsessed with the high end of things, the whole idea was, of course, to remove a tax bracket to get rid of things like bracket creep. So truly, millions of Australians wouldn't have to worry about their extra job or extra hours. And of course, he said that how many times?
We haven't changed our position on the stage 3 tax cuts at all.
We haven't changed our position. I can confirm that we haven't changed our position. We haven't changed our position.
Well, I'll make a few points. The first is that the government's position hasn't changed.
They're legislated. We haven't changed our position.
Tax cuts will happen in July, and we're
the same
committed.
as what we're committed to?
We're committed to that. Well, we haven't changed our position.
We haven't changed our position on that issue.
We haven't changed our position.
Now, today, while he was not as bald-faced as quoting from an American movie, he tried to tell us that the decision was made on Tuesday, when plenty of evidence has been around, including today, spinning the changes to the tax system, that they've been planning this for a lot longer than just Tuesday.
We obviously have been thinking over the summer period about how we do that. We received the Treasury advice and we changed the government's position on Tuesday of this week when the Cabinet agreed to the new tax cuts.
We had ERC, then we had Cabinet, then we had full ministry, then I had full caucus. Doing the right thing, making sure that everyone had a chance to have that input.
So forget the process here, right? As he was telling people this year, as he was telling people all summer, no plans to change, there was a plan to change. So on top of the broken promise, there was the blatant broken promises while they were breaking the promise. Now, I love the number of people that are turning around and saying, well, they don't have to worry about any of this, including, have a look at some of the headlines that were put up in protection of the Prime Minister today, suggesting that why millions of Australians should forgive the Prime Minister for his broken promise. Actively trying to say, nothing to see here, the Jedi mind trick, right? Then, of course, there was the people over at the Turnbull Times, otherwise known as The Guardian, where 90% of Australians will cheer the broken promise. And then, as you've seen on other shows, there was the excruciating garbage of watching the Prime Minister, who has been caught lying, including about the process of his lie, turning around today and saying, no, not a lie, no. They think honestly you are stupid and you will fall for anything.
What I did was absolutely say, I have announced when we have changed our position. We changed our position on Tuesday.
And now he's turning around and he's saying that one of the reasons he had to do it was because he's like one of the nurses that was responding to the COVID emergency.
And just as the health crisis of the pandemic meant the governments had a responsibility to change economic policy through measures such as JobKeeper, the cost of living pressures facing Australians on low and middle incomes demand a better tax policy.
Seriously, the spin they are throwing at you is better than any cricket you're going to be watching in the next few days. Now, of course, remember, all last year, almost every night we talked about cost of living, but the Prime Minister did nothing with the mid-year economic review. In fact, what happened with his budget last year was $1,500 was taken off 10 million workers. Now, the difference between that automatic tax return, where you would get $1,500 all at once, and what's being proposed now, and what will inevitably pass the Parliament, because who's going to vote against a tax cut? Well, that's $1,500 in one lump sum. You can take the $1,500 and then spend it on a bill. Instead, the Prime Minister has told his MPs, and excellent reporting from Sherry Marks, excellent reporting in the previous hour. You've got to watch her, then watch us, watch everyone here on Sky News. You settle yourself in with Chris Kenny, go all the way through to the late debate, like so many of you do, but you've got to watch them every night, because the detail that Sherry had was that the spin that MPs are supposed to go back to their communities with is to say that this is the quote-unquote solution to cost of living. A solution to people's abilities to be able to pay bigger bills is for the government to have maintained that $1,500, so every time the tax return came around, you had $1,500 to spend on a bill. Instead, this bloke seriously thinks you are so stupid that the solution to cost of living is tax cuts that would barely be able to get you a family meal at KFC, let alone take the kids to the movies. Again, now we've finally got the numbers. I'll tell you what it works out per week. If you're on $45,000, it's $15.46 per week. Oh, wow. If it's $60,000, it's $22 a week. $32 a week for somebody on $80,000 and $41 a week. Oh, thank you, Prime Minister. Cost of living has now been solved. Seriously, Labor MPs are being told, keep this up on the screen, they are being told that $15, $22, $32 and $41 is a solution to cost of living. How is it a solution to cost of living when if somebody is paying off a home loan, I'm sorry, I've got to show you the numbers again. They could be, as a result of the elbow dozen of interest rate rises, they now have to find an extra $14,000 to pay off a $500,000 loan, $21,000 on a $750,000 loan, and $29,000 on $1 million loan. Somehow I think $15 a week, $22 a week, $32 a week or $41 a week is not going to touch the sides. So let's get to the political genius that is on great display that we sadly do not appreciate. The genius of the Prime Minister and his Treasurer. The genius of all the Labor Party machine and the MPs that are going to have to go out and shovel this garbage to people as the solution to cost of living. Now, often in politics, when somebody is doing something but you can't quite work out what they're doing, people say that it's a 4D game of chess. The reality is he's not even playing one dimension of checkers. Because you see, here's the reality. The Prime Minister is doing all of this about the Dunkley by-election and you know all of that. But I want to go forward after the Dunkley by-election to whenever we're going to have a federal election. If they hold on to Dunkley, it'll be later this year. If they don't, it'll be as far as possible into next year. But have a look at this. The Prime Minister does not have John Howard's backbench. He does not have Tony Abbott's backbench, where these people, of course, had like 90 seats in the parliament. And because the polls say, majority of people say cost of living is number one issue, 84% of people say government hasn't done enough, then they're going to turn around and tell you that $15 a week is the solution to everything. You see, have a look at this. Labor has 78 seats in the parliament after they won the Aston by-election. You need 76 to form a government, meaning for him to have a majority government, he's only got a couple of seats to lose before he's got to go begging to the Greens to remain the Prime Minister. Now, the Greens will put him in there. A couple of the Teals might as well. But the honest reality is he will not be in charge of the country. They will be. Well, have a look at this. I did a bit of analysis today using the census information that tells us about who make up these electorates and how much they earn and what type of jobs they do. And then I had a look at the results of the 2022 election. And when the Prime Minister has that little room to move, there's a few Labor MPs who will be quite nervous that bracket creep stays at 37 cents and people have been whacked above $100,000. Have a look at this. The seat of Higgins is now in play. Now, despite the fact that it was won by only about 4,000 votes, 27%, 3 points above the national average, the electorate has professionals. 15% of the electorate are managers. Those people are the ones that are going to be the ones dudded by the Prime Minister's decision. Overall, the seat has 31% higher than the mean income. So this is a rich seat. It's a Labor seat. That now is in trouble. That's in Victoria. What about in Bennelong, the former Prime Minister John Howard's seat? It's only won by fewer than 2,000 votes. So if 2,000 people change their mind, the seat goes back to the Libs. Now have a look at this. 13% above national average, 38% of that seat are professionals, 15% are managers, and the seat has 17% higher than the national mean income. These people are the ones he has screwed over. He's screwing over his own backbench to try to change the polls. This is not 4D chess. Also in Sydney, the seat of Higgins. This one was won by, again, the best part of 4,000 votes. 27% are professionals, 15% are managers, 31% higher than the national mean income. Bennelong, my apologies, had 17%. Seriously. So the seat of Higgins is in trouble. The seat of Bennelong is in trouble. The seat of Reid. Now, they won it by 10,000 votes. That should be enough of a cushion for them to be able to hold on at the next election. But when you've got 19% higher than the national mean income, and you've got the best part of 50% of the electorate are professionals or managers, guess who might change their mind going into the next election? And then a seat in Western Australia, which was won only by 5,000 votes, where 44% of the seat are professionals or managers, and they're 5% above the mean income. So again, the maths. He's got 78 seats, but 1, 2, 3, 4 are directly in trouble compared to the tax promise that he made at the election. The reason he said there was to be no stage 3 tax cuts was so he could win those 4 seats. Without those 4 seats, no majority. He'd still be the Prime Minister, but he has to go cap in hand to the Greens and the Teals. So Albo's going to back himself. But if he honestly thinks somehow political gravity will not work for him, then he's not exactly following the science, dare I say, when it comes to politics. And also, what about this? One of the things he announced today was his ongoing carry-on to make you think that the problem with cost of living isn't anything the government does with power prices, nothing the government possibly could do to bring down petrol prices by, say, trying to move on fuel taxes. No, it's all supermarkets. It's all the moustache-twirling billionaires that run supermarkets and the mum and dad investors in the country who have shares in Coles and Woolies. Now, the Prime Minister has already announced an inquiry into these things. That's the one that...
Today I announced that the Treasurer will be directing the ACCC to conduct a 12-month price inquiry into the supermarket industry. The ACCC has significant powers, and it is the best and most effective body to investigate supermarket prices.
So he's already announced an inquiry. Today he announces a new inquiry, but guess what? The inquiry doesn't report back for 12 months. But also something he's doing is to reheat a very bad idea. Remember Grocery Watch? This was Kevin Rudd's solution to the cost of living, as opposed to what, $14, $15, $25 is the solution to cost of living. And part of that process was that the Australian Consumer Association, Choice, was to go around and double check how much items were in different supermarkets around the country. You'd be able to check on a website and work out whether the one on this side of the suburb or that side of town is the cheapest place for you to go and buy a tin of Milo. Of course, it didn't work out. Technology is a little bit better than we were the best part of, 15 years ago. But this is Grocery Watch, because he's announced that the same people who ran Grocery Watch will now be given $1 million to track grocery prices around Australia. Oh, but by the way, it's not going to be in real-time data like Rudd's promise. It's going to be they'll come back every 3 months and tell us what the prices are. Now, by the way, why do I know this is Grocery Watch? Because Philip Khoury wrote a piece a few years ago called How Grocery Choice Was Ushered to the Grave. It reads as follows. After the election, the website concept had begun as Grocery Watch. It was a disaster. The government gave the task to the consumer watchdog Choice. That's the same people they've hired to do the same thing in 2024 that they did in 2010. Choice got $13 million back then. It's $1 million now. The government then soon realised things were out of date, so they had to get rid of it. And who was the minister who had to get rid of it? Craig Emerson, who's the bloke they've brought back to do a supermarket inquiry. See, the thing with Labor is they think there's no such thing as a bad idea, even if it's the same bad idea 10, 15 years apart. Now, if they think this is the solution to cost of living, good luck. If they think this is the way to win over the 4 seats that trusted the Prime Minister when he was clearly lying and didn't even have the guts to confess he was changing his mind while they were changing their mind, then somehow Australian politics has completely changed, and for the worse. Quick break, back with more. Plenty to talk about. No sooks, no lefties, Michael Kroger, Caroline Marcus, Nigel Farage and Dave Rubin. Lots to talk about, including I'll tell you who the Australian of the Year is next. The Australians of the Year have been announced. They are people who have changed the world for the better through their research and treatment into melanoma. These are people that have been based in New South Wales. Their names, Richard Scollier and Georgina Long. Yalama Yanapingu is the Senior Australian of the Year. She has worked in Indigenous communities in far northern Queensland. The Olympian Emma McEwen is the Young Australian of the Year. And I love the local hero, and that's David Elliott, who has, for all of his life, for a big part of his life, he's worked in and around dinosaurs and a dinosaur museum. He, of course, is yet another proud Queenslander. Let's continue the conversation right now. No sooks, no lefties, just the way we like it here this Thursday night. None other than Michael Kroger, fresh back from his trip to Israel, and Caroline Marcus, who always breaks news at skynews.com.au and on air. So, Michael, the trap for the opposition is about whether they back them or not. I think that's a simple solution. You just constantly try to amend the legislation to what you want, and then you end up backing in the tax cut. Then you're able to go to an election with the want to remove a bracket. But let's deal with the broken promise. Is the broken promise going to stick, or is the spin of the government, which is, is going to be all people remember because they're $17 richer a week?
Well, mate, the answer to that is very clear. So the polling organisations which will be doing surveys on the tax cuts now will be only asking one question, which is, are you in favour or against the changes to the tax system? And a majority will say they're in favour.
Correct.
Obviously, because the vast majority of people are getting them. However, what they're not going to do is ask question number 2, which is the fundamental question, which is this. Do you believe a promise made to you by Anthony Albanese? And a majority of people are going to say, I wouldn't believe a word he says. So, mate, I am shocked. Even at my advanced age, I am shocked at what this bloke's doing. If you thought The Voice was a big enough disaster, he's now gone and broken this promise. I mean, what is this guy thinking? It's bad enough with the $275. No changes to super he promised. How many hundreds of times is he on the record of saying no changes to the policy? I mean, I can't believe. Where are the hard-headed people in the Labor Party saying, Albo, you cannot possibly do this in a million years? And I saw all those nervous ministers at the press club today thinking, maybe if Albo gets hit by a bus, not that we're directing the bus towards him, but maybe he does, I might front up. Mate, this is a spectacular own goal. No one's going to believe this bloke at the next election when he's asked to give a commitment about not taxing capital gains on the family home, because we know Chalmers is in favour of it. No one's going to believe him. When he's asked to commit that there's not going to be changes to the capital gains tax, no one's going to believe him. When he's talked about negative gearing, franking credits, and gives commitments, no one's going to believe him. No one will ever trust this guy again on tax. And Paul, I think he's certainly going to lose his majority, and this guy is now at great odds of repeating what happened in the 1930s, losing after one term.
Yeah, now Caroline, again, the message that Sharry Markson had for us in the previous hour was that the talking point that Labor MPs go back to their communities with for Australia Day and beyond is this is the, and I quote, solution to cost of living. $15 a week, $22 a week, $32 a week, or $41 a week. They might need a new talking point.
Yeah, maybe. And I don't think that anyone's electorate is that stupid as to just swallow that line. It doesn't matter who's saying it, because we know that Albanese has been promising that he's going to do something for cost of living, but at the same time, we have not seen that at all. While he's been promising $275 cuts to power bills, that hasn't happened. He's been promising not to touch the tax cuts. That's now happened. He's been promising he'll get the voice up. That hasn't happened. He's been promising to do politics differently and have some integrity when it comes to politics. That hasn't happened. What has he actually done that he's said he's going to do at the end of the day? But look, I also think that he has been preempting this for a while, which is why he keeps getting asked at every press conference or opportunity whether he's still committed to these tax cuts. We all had a feeling that this was on the line, and he did preempt it somewhat by continuing to trot out the line that his government had not changed their position on this when he was asked if he was still committed to it. Now suddenly he has changed his position. So you could sort of see it coming at the same time.
Now, I'll ask the team back in the control room, bring up the seats that I was mentioning before, because, again, the majority of this government, which I think was always going to go at the next election, but the stupidity, the absolute stupidity, and you've had the same conversations I have today, no doubt, Michael, is that the majority is only a couple of seats. So you can't afford to, it's not like the GST where you had 90 MPs and you could afford to burn a backbench. The seats of Higgins, Bennelong, Reid, and also the one in Western Australia, they're all above national mean income. They've all got almost half of their population as managers or professionals. And these are all the people that the PM screwed today.
Well, mate, I live in Higgins. The Liberal Party have pre-selected Katie Allen, who's the former member there. She lost in 2022, not because of her, but because of the swing against the government at that stage. She was a very popular member.
100%.
She will win Higgins back now. I think it's fair to say Katie Allen is going to win Higgins back. They're going to lose. And you saw the Labor member get up in the caucus yesterday and say, is this a good idea, this whole tax cut thing? And they said, oh, yes, yes. She's thinking that's not a good idea. So the Liberal Party will win back Higgins. I mean, he's only got to lose 11. You see, because he's on 78. If he loses 11, he's on 67. Dutton, you can say, is on, 57, 58, depending on how you play with a couple of independents. If he gets 11, he gets in front of Albanese, and then it's a matter of the Teals and the independents to make up the difference, to decide who's going to be in government. Well, from history, those Teal seats will go majority of the coalition because they're in Liberal Party, National Party areas. So I think Dutton's got an exceptionally good chance of winning now. But I think, Paul, it's time for Albo to keep one promise. One promise seems to have dropped off the national stage in recent months with all this stuff about his lie over the tax cuts. Don't forget that on election night, he committed to implementing the Uluru Statement from the Heart in full. And, mate, thus far he's only tried one part of it. So I think it's time for Albo to return to his roots, recommit to the Makarrata Commission, reparations. That's exactly what Middle Australia wants to hear. Brad, what's his name at Woolworths can he can go bananas over that. This bloke, the left can't trust him because he's not going to proceed with the Uluru Statement, right? He's given that away as a bad idea electorally. He's basically lied to all the people over 180,000, and the rest basically going to grab the money and say, you can't trust this bloke in a million years. And as I said earlier, all these tax increases that Albo was heavily in favour of in 19, well, let's see how he deals with them in early 25, mate, when the election will be held.
All right, let's talk about tomorrow and Australia Day. I had the experience of being able to go to Cabramatta in the southwest of Sydney. In fact, I want to play this for you now, which was the experience that I had, which was to go and check in on Frank Carbone, who was, of course, the Mayor of Fairfield. He told us that everyone was very pro-Australia Day. It was fascinating to go, to watch, because that's exactly what I felt when I experienced the opportunity to be there. Compare that to a lot of the self-hating and self-loathing that happens over on Channel 2 and in the Turnbull Times. But here's my experience talking about Australia Day with a lot of people who are part of a community where 79% of them speak something other than English at home. Our mate, the Mayor of Fairfield, Frank Carbone, says this part of Australia loves Australia Day. So why not come and have a look for ourselves and talk to our fellow Aussies? What do you like celebrating on that National Day?
Food, barbecues, beer.
What does Australia mean to you?
Helping everyone out, everyone's your mate.
Multicultural.
What do you like about Australia?
I like all, and then I want to live here long time because I have kids and the husband here. I like all, everything, people, everything here.
Everything's how multicultural it is, and everyone is so nice and respectful to each other.
Or just everything.
Yeah.
Or just celebrate everything.
This is it. You're a fit bloke in a singlet. You qualify. Happy Australia Day.
Of course.
This is a country worth celebrating?
Worth celebrating. The best country in the world. That's why I come. I'm glad I come here.
You looking forward to Australia Day on Friday?
Always.
Good man. What's worth celebrating? What do you try to do on that day? What do you think about on that day?
I want to think about the sign thunder when I come into Australia. People be friendly, people be opening, and people looking for have a good time.
So what has this country given you?
A lot. A lot.
And I bet you've given plenty in return.
I give a lot of return, and I give a few children, some beautiful children.
But you try to keep your tax down, right?
Always.
Yeah, good.
Always.
Aussie.
Oi, oi, oi.
See, his eyes lit up there. His eyes lit up. Caroline, I love that idea because, again, we hear from lots of people, including a lot of people who may well have been here for multiple generations. It was nice to see people from an area where, as I said, majority they don't speak English at home, but they're all in on tomorrow.
Yeah, it's so true. And I began my career in journalism here in Australia in Fairfield, great part of the country. And it just shows you what we've seen reflected in so many polls and from speaking to so many migrants or first or second generation Australians that they love being here. They're proud of being Australian. They're proud of Australia Day because for them, living here is an opportunity for a better life. That's why they came here, to escape or get away from somewhere else that they frankly saw as not as good as Australia. And let's celebrate the benefits. And as a migrant, I say, happy Australia Day, everyone. Tomorrow, celebrate it loud and proud.
We will. Well done, darling. All right, now, Michael, compare that to some idiot who decided to chop down the Captain Cook statue, trying to treat it like Saddam Hussein's. What did you think of that today?
Oh, that was great, wasn't it? What a great effort by that clown. I have to apologise to the rest of Australia from as a Victorian for the fact that a lot of these problems in this country appear to emanate from Victoria. We have a nasty underbelly in this state of anarchists, Antifa people, the ones that attacked Andrew Bolt, neo-Nazis, Jew haters, left and right in Victoria. You see a lot of this stuff in Victoria that you don't see elsewhere in this country, and a lot of work has to be done by either this Labor government or the next Liberal government to start lecturing people here and teaching people about proper Australian values and to flush out, arrest, jail, whatever we need to do to the people that hate Jews, the Nazis, the Antifas and the anarchists, the ratbags who are denigrating this state and making this state a less safe place to live. So it was disgusting, it was sick, but this is an underbelly in this state, mate, and it ain't good.
And Paul, you know what? It exposes...
Well said. Enjoy your Australia Day.
It exposes the lie that just changing
really fast,
the date,
Caroline, if possible.
Yeah, changing the date is going to fix things because these people want an end to the Australian that we know today.
Correct.
No, correct. Thank you, guys. I've got to rush because we've got none other than the great Nigel Farage standing by for us in the UK from London. Now he's back via the United States. He was there in Iowa. And we're going to talk about your mate Trump and how he did in New Hampshire. Look, lock the gate. I don't care how much money Nikki Haley's going to raise. He's going to be the nominee. This thing's over well and truly. What are you seeing about Trump, 3.0 when it comes to an election? All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll fix the copper wire between here and London. We'll have a chat to him and also the great Dave Rubin from the United States. Just getting started. We've got a big one ahead here on Paul Murray Live. Thanks for watching. All right, take two. The freedom fighter, that is Nigel Farage, joining us as always, only here on Paul Murray Live, and he's joining us from London. So Donald Trump, he is sweeping the field. He will be the Republican nominee, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And I was in Iowa and it was fascinating. All the big money, all the global businesses backing Haley, 2/3 of the elected local Iowan politicians backing DeSantis. And there I was in a gymnasium of a school in a little suburb of Des Moines. And they arrived, the 4x4s coming through the snowdrifts. It was 28 degrees below freezing, and they arrived to put their votes in for Donald Trump. And it shows you America, through its open primaries, still has a vibrant democracy. He won by a record margin. He's gone on to win emphatically in New Hampshire. And not only is he winning, but I got to tell you, he is in the most terrific humour. You know, he was funny, he was self-deprecating, and all over the world. I mean, you know, when you see, even at Davos, where you see Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan saying, you know what, we need to listen to this man. He's been right about some big things. You think, wow, something amazing is happening here. I really enjoyed being there last week, and I'm going to go back regularly over the next few months.
Yeah, well, look, I look forward to meeting you somewhere on the trail because it's going to be fun to watch this year. Also, this was Donald Trump giving a bit of a shout out to our Nigel. Have a look at this. This was in Iowa.
Is that Nigel Farage, by the way? Oh, you stand up, will you? I'm just looking at this handsome guy. He's been a backer of mine from day one. I think go Brexit, very non-controversial. And you've been right. They haven't implemented too well, but you've been right. No, we're big fans. Thank you, Nigel. It's really an honor to have you here. Great. You look great. I love these suits. You know, they know how to dress over there.
I'll get to your future in UK politics in a moment, but it's always fun to see those little shout outs. And also, I've got to say, and I love because it sends, political people crazy, that he wears the hats, that he talks about people's dresses, that he makes the little sounds, all these things that they say, so desperately unpresidential. The reality is, this is not very complicated to work out. Millions of people in the United States and by extension around the world, but certainly in the United States, they have copped it from their families since 2015 for backing this bloke. There's unfinished business and they're not going to break up with him. So when we get to Nikki Haley's home state of South Carolina in a few weeks, the former governor is going to be embarrassed.
Oh, it's going to be humiliating. She's been a very successful politician. Becoming the governor, the role she took on at the UN, she's got a very successful career. I just wonder what the hell she's doing, because if she thinks in 2028 she's going to be the nominee, well, she's actually, I think, upsetting many of the grassroots by needlessly carrying on with this campaign. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's a waste of time and money. And I think Trump is right. The Republicans now need to unite, start fighting together and beat Biden big time in this election. And it isn't just America that needs this. Crikey, it's the world that needs it, because goodness me, we are in the most parlous state of international military relations we've been probably in both of our lifetimes.
But we certainly know what the playbook's going to be from the media and from Joe Biden, which is end of democracy, scariest stuff ever, the bull's back in the China shop and we still haven't even rebuilt it over the last 4 years. To some degree, that was successful in the midterms. Why won't that be just as successful as it was, say, in and around 2020? What do you think Trump can do that will overcome this blitzkrieg of sort of end of the world stuff that's going to come from Biden and his mates?
Well, if you're a fair-minded person, you listen to Biden saying Trump is the end of democracy, yet you see a highly politicised judiciary now putting 91 potential criminal charges against a former president of the USA. So to anybody fair-minded, the attack on democracy is the politicisation of the judiciary. Look, Putin's opponent, Navalny, is now in prison in the Gulag, right, out in Siberia. That's effectively what Biden is trying to do to Trump. The other thing that's important here, and again, Jamie Dimon picked up on this, is people are saying, crikey, this man in 2016 was warning us about the southern border. We're saying if we don't do something with our southern border, we're in for a major problem. Well, boy, he was right. This man said, if we go soft on policing in America's cities, if we start defunding the police, it'll lead to a massive increase in homicide rates. Well, look at what's happened to American cities. And on the world stage, it was Trump almost alone that warned the West about China's bad intentions, warned the West that we needed strong leadership. And what have we seen? We've seen the Taliban take back Kabul, we've seen Putin invade Ukraine, and China become ever more bellicose about Taiwan. One of the reasons this campaign has got the incredible momentum that it's got is people are saying, you know what? This guy has been right.
Now, we'll talk UK politics a little bit later. In a second, we'll have a chat to Dave Rubin, of course, our favourite Gen Xer. But as always, you can find Nigel on the Flash app here in Australia, over YouTube and all the rest of it of his GB News show. Nigel Farage, thanks very much.
Thank you.
It's been way too long, pleased to say. The great king of Gen X, the man who we love talking to, more importantly, because he's just common sense, the host of the Rubin Report on Rumble, and you can find him in lots of other places, the great Dave Rubin in the free state of Florida. My friend, how are you?
I'm all right, Paul. I'm all right. You know, the guy I was supporting for president has come home to the free state of Florida. I assume soon enough we will be seceding from the Union. We will be digging a moat, putting alligators in it, and separating from everybody else. So, you know, what do I have to complain about?
Yeah, a small problem, though, which is that I couldn't believe that the Supreme Court has turned around and has said that a state basically can't defend itself. That's exactly what Texas has been doing with putting razor wire to try to keep the literally millions of people who cross that border on the Mexican side of the border.
Yeah, this is a really crazy story. So the Supreme Court just decided 5-4 with Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts siding with the more liberal judges that Texas, in essence, can't defend its border. We can get into some of the legal nitty-gritty on it, but really what's happening here is that Texas Governor Greg Abbott is saying, hey, if the federal government will not protect the border, and everyone across the world knows that we're not protecting our border right now, they're seeing the videos of literally thousands and thousands of people crossing the border every day. Texas said, all right, they won't do it, we're going to do it. They put up some barbed wire fences, and the Supreme Court has decided that they are not allowed to do that. I think this is going to become a massive states' rights versus federal government fight. It's going to be a fight in the courts. It's going to be a fight on the ground and in Congress, and it should be. And just to be completely clear, I absolutely stand with Greg Abbott and with the people of Texas and any border state that wants to protect its citizens. The federal government's not doing its job. You want to impeach Joe Biden, forget about Hunter Biden. How about for not protecting the borders of the United States, which is one of his very few actual jobs to do.
We all know about the issues that are driving at the election, but it has been amazing to watch people standing in the freezing cold of Iowa and New Hampshire saying that their number one issue is the border. But when the numbers are this big and the border is as porous as it is, it doesn't matter what state you're in. It's going to be a driving issue. It looks like they're going to wrap their arms around Trump, and here we go again. Now, national polls at this moment say that there's a chance that he could win, mainly because the Biden support is off. But I want people to understand, just pour a little bit of cold water on the hype here, that 55% of independents have said they would not vote for Trump if he's found guilty. Now, that would seem an inevitability when there's a court case in places like DC, where a jury basically voted, 9-1 against him. No one knows what's going to happen in November, but anyone who says that Trump's already over the line, they're not really looking at the board, are they?
No, look, one of my concerns with Trump, and Paul, we've discussed this many times. I voted for Trump last time. I thought DeSantis was a better choice. Clearly the base, at least the 50,000 people who voted in Iowa, and that's all it was. It was 50,000 people who voted for Trump, but that was enough, in essence, to get rid of DeSantis, and now Nikki Haley is the only opposition left. One of my fears was that if Trump did become the nominee, where are you going to get the new voters? And that does seem to be the issue right now. If Trump replicates exactly everybody that he got last time, you still have to find some new voters to win this time. And the question is, where are those new voters? I know there are some new voters, or there are some voters that voted for Trump last time that are kind of frustrated with him or don't want the circus anymore. They're just tired of it. Maybe they'll sit out. I don't know where those new voters are. Look, you might just get a depressed turnout altogether. It's not like people are going to be that enthused to vote for Biden, so maybe that helps Trump. But I think the major issue at the moment is everyone in the world, all over the planet, from your country to mine, know that something is not right here when we are about to repeat Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. It should not have been this way. It did not have to be this way. We could have done this better. I will support Trump as long as he's going against Biden. He's the better of the two. But it did not have to be this way, and it's a damn shame, because there are major world problems. Immigration is just one of them, and I don't know that either one of these guys can fix them.
Dave, I'm completely with you. Lovely to talk, mate. Look forward to doing so again next week.
Good to see you, Paul.
Cyclone Kirrily has crossed the coast in and around Townsville. The wind gusts that are happening right now, I'm just having a look at the latest and live observations. They tell us are somewhere between 85 and 91 kilometres an hour. The rain that is expected with it, we obviously will find out in the next couple of hours as it comes to hand. Please stay inside. Don't do something stupid for a photo. Strength and love to everyone who's going to be affected by it. We're thinking of your family as well as ours, and that being the family who watch us each and every night. We'll see you again next week for another edition of Paul Murray Live on Sunday. Go Yankees, and here's the late debate.